Westbury. Situated west of the Johannesburg CBD, it is a home to many families, but also a haven for gangsterism and drug abuse. It is an area overrun by drugs and violence, and its community continues to live under dire circumstances. In this community, many children will have come into contact with drugs by the time they leave primary school, and 1 in 3 will have taken them. While the war on gangsterism is being tackled head-on, the war on drugs seems more and more like a lost cause.
I don't know what happened for me to stop actually selling drugs. I can't put anything specific on it. Biblical, where it was the universe. But I think, obviously, seeing some of my friends that passed, my peers more or less in that age, I realized that I had a potential to go back to school and do something better with my life.
The Johannesburg Town Council established the suburb of Westbury 100 years ago as an area for black residents and called it Newland Location. Under the apartheid regime, it was declaimed as a black township and proclaimed as the Western Coloured Township when forced removals were used to move coloured residents from Doornfontein and Pageview to this location. In 1967, it was named Westbury. It is from this melting pot of disorder that a young boy would use his senses and sensibility to overcome his surroundings and open a space for other young people to fly. Kelvin was raised in Westbury in a 2-bedroom house he shared with 10 other family members: uncle, sister, her 3 kids, grandfather, mother, aunt, her boyfriend, and their children.
General salute for you, my brother.
Growing up in Westbury was quite interesting. I think it shaped me. And I know it comes with a lot of challenges. Obviously, you get exposed to quite a bit of stuff. There's a lot of positive and a lot of negative. But I think with the negative stuff that's being around, it's easy to get caught up in it because it's quite visible.
That's te veel crime. Te veel rowery en mense is 'n bietjie bang om uit te gaan, want as jy net uitgaan en dan hulle kan jou target, jou goed afvat en wegherklop en daar's nooit wat 'n mens kan sê dat ons staan saam as 'n community om sulke dinge te vermy nie. Maar dan kyk in die oggende in mense is bang om werk toe te gaan. Jy moet werk toe gaan. As jy werk toe gaan, dan moet jy iemand hê wat saam met jou loop vir veiligheid, want ons is regtig veilig soos in nou se dae nie.
These living conditions were not unique to Kelvin's family in this community. Escaping their reality at home, a lot of young people were exposed to an unsavory lifestyle which proved to be unhealthy for them. Growing up in Westbury, Kelvin and his peers didn't have many role models from the community. Most of the successful people had made it out. Crime seemed to be the only solution out of poverty.
It was alcoholism, being exposed to dagga, drugs. I think those were the things that we all get exposed to. And because it's so close in a vicinity, a lot of youngsters get caught up in it.
This place, Westbury, is not a good place. This place, Westbury, is God-forsaken. It's unholy grounds. On a daily basis, you see people getting robbed in front of you. You're too scared to talk because you're going to get hurt as well. The gangsterism doesn't stop. These people are fighting over drug corners, shooting one another dead. The mother can come and say that the drug lord comes there with his flashy car and what, and then the mother say, that's my child. The child brings in money every day. So the mother is happy, she doesn't care about the child's future here. You see, so this is all about Westbury.
Like Henry, Kelvin was not interested in school at the time. In grade 4, he skipped school for a year without his mother's knowledge.
The teachers obviously came to the house and discussed it with my mother. Then she decided to take me back to school. Passed standard 2, went to standard 3, standard 4, standard 5, I decided to quit, to actually drop out of school. In that period of time, I was obviously hanging out with the wrong friends, drinking, so you were exposed to a whole lot of stuff. But when I decided to drop out of school in standard 5, was purely, we started selling drugs. And by selling drugs, there was no need for me to go to school. We were making money.
The load got too heavy for me because the customers were too many. And the cars were pulling up and I couldn't handle it. And I started approaching Kelvin. said, hey, Buddha, Hispan, omwerp, het gaan over koop, selling.
At this point, things had already spiraled out of control. Kelvin had moved out of home, and his family no longer had any influence over him.
They knew where I was because our house is not far from where I was selling. The situation was at a point where I was reckless. I was like uncontrollable. And I think that was one of the biggest challenges. There was this one cop, he used to chase us a lot. His name was Bastain. So my grandfather always used to hang out on this, by the fence. And as I pull up, the cop says, "Sir, do you know this young man?" And my grandfather said, "Yeah, he is selling drugs, just take him."
Dit was 'n bietjie stout van hom, want ons het hom nie so groot geleer nie, maar want toe het my pa hom 'n bietjie vasgevat en 'n bietjie gesê, nee, dit is die lewe, dit is die lewe daar nie.
Fortunately, no drugs were found on him, so no arrests could be made. This was a lucky escape for the 11-year-old. However, this potential pitfall did not deter him. After all, he was making an income averaging at 2,000 rand a month. A lot of money for an 11-year-old.
Wat was die zeker, Sandra?
One of the family members he would offer some monetary assistance to was his sister.
Hy het my baie geld gegee. Om die waarheid te sê, dit sal 5,000 gewees het. Die helfte moes hy nooit weer teruggegee het, want hy het dit nie vir homself verkoop nie, hy het dit vir iemand verkoop. So die helfte, dan het hy my altyd gesê, asseblief hou vir my hierdie porsie, maar die porsie kan jy gebruik. Soos sê 2,500 en in die tyd was dit vir my baie gewees. Ek het dit meestal net gebruik op kos en om vir hom te voorsien en dit wat hy nodig het, soos klere en so voort. Maar meestal het ek dit net gebruik vir kos, want ek het tans ook gewerk, want hy wil graag my ma gehelp het en my oupa gehelp het. Dit is waarvoor ek maar die geld meestal gebruik het. Maar my ouers het nie daarvan geweet nie. As my oupa dit geweet het, hy sou dit nooit aanvaar het nie. Ek sal ook nie sê dit was reg geweest nie, maar dit was die enigste doeleinde waarvoor ek het regtig gebruik het. Ek het dit nie vir myself gebruik nie.
At this point, Kelvin was staying at a friend's house, and apart from spending the money on life's necessities such as food, Kelvin and his friends would spend most of it on flashy clothes. School was no longer an option. Life was too good.
You're making money, you're buying expensive clothes, you're dressing up. You know, it's all those little things that keep you in there. So I think while it's good, you don't want to stop. All Stars, your Oshkosh, Dangri, you know. And the guy that was selling for loved his clothes as well, you know. So it was about making a statement on weekends. Buy your own alcohol, you know. You're a man of the moment, you're sitting with money. The guy that we were selling for, he was actually like, listen, you guys will never use it. So I think with Henny as well, I think because he's older than me, so I think he was also like, guys, this is not something that we can consume.
If they start with a dag, they get that feeling that, you know, and then they change, they go to Mendrex, then they go to cocaine, cat, and after cat, then it's crystal meth, glass, then they go there, you see, and then afterwards, there's no end.
After a year in the street corners of Westbury and staying at a friend's house, Kelvin decided that this life was no longer for him.
What happened is I was the one that encourages him to go back to school. I said to him, go back to school. This ain't life, because this is ruining us. Kelvin was still young. I said to myself, I took him and made him do this. So it's my responsibility to let him go back.
This decision also meant that Kelvin had to find a new place to stay. This is when he heard of the community church that took in troubled boys such as him, but it came at a cost. Living at the church came with conditions. Each boy was assigned a daily chore. Kelvin's designated chore was in the kitchen. He was responsible for cooking for the boys, and it was also compulsory to attend school.
At night time, after church or so, we would have a little Bible study with them, teach them the word, and sometimes we would teach them, you know, skills. We taught them how to cook. Kelvin was the one that was always inquisitive, you know, and I always asked him sometimes to peel the potatoes, to clean the vegetables, and I taught him, you know, basic stuff like cooking rice and the meat and things. And then when I left for Bible school, he had to automatically take over, and that is where he developed his skills.
I had to cook for 20 guys every day. So after school, come back. And it wasn't spectacular meals, it was fairly basic meals, you know. And that was a nice thing, so I didn't have to do dishes, I didn't have to clean, just make sure I cook after school.
Back at school and being the cook at the church, Kelvin discovered his love for the culinary.
I don't think I was the best chef at that point in time. Didn't know a lot. Just I had to do it because it was my chores. About 2-3 years into that, I realized that I'm actually good at it. I can pursue it as a career. And that's how I started working towards becoming a chef.
Kelvin discovered his passion for food, but lacking funds to go to a culinary school, he found a job as a data capturer. His entrepreneurial spirit kicked in when he also baked and sold cakes in Westbury over the weekend. All of this to save money for his higher education.
I had to basically find a job, save the money for 6 months, and I got myself into Parktown College. And Parktown College basically was a hospitality management course that I did. I paid for my school fees, but I didn't know I'm gonna survive. So one of the things, I started baking cakes, selling cakes.
Six months later, he enrolled at a culinary college in Joburg, where he specialized in hospitality management and obtained a 3-year diploma. In 1999, he started his apprenticeship at a hotel where he discovered his flair for making pastry. His resume boasts a long list of 5-star hotels where he has worked primarily as a pastry chef.
When I started out at a Parktonian hotel, working there for 18 months, and that was like pure hunger. I think the chefs could have seen it, the exec chef. So they organized me something at the Hyatt Hotel. Just learning pastry, you know, it was a different ball game. I mean, the stuff that I've learned there basically changed a lot of things for me.
He also gained international acclaim when he went to work in countries such as the USA, Australia, France, Spain, and Italy as a pastry chef. He is also a member of the SA Culinary National Team, which has won many accolades.
I won Employee of the Year, and they sent me to the States for an internship at Hyatt Regency, which I think was, it was a goal of mine to actually go see what the States had to offer. Came back, worked for Michelangelo, went back to Sant and Son. We went to Spain to go do some South African cuisine over there as well. Worked for Meat Company, went to Australia, opened some restaurants for them. Fortunately enough, I went to the Color Olympics, to the Olympics in 2012. Yeah, so I've been to Spain, I've been to Australia, I've been to Italy, been to Germany, France, and that was purely because of cooking.
After 5 years of climbing ladders in all the top kitchens and building a name for himself abroad, it was now time to start his own business, which is a small culinary school and catering company in Maboneng. And who better to venture on this path with than his wife, Jolene?
I've always loved food. Growing up, I've always been in the kitchen. I was raised by my granny, so she taught me all the ins and outs of cooking. And being in the kitchen, I remember one day saying to a friend of mine that one day I'm going to marry myself a chef. I met Kelvin a few years later, and we were friends for a while. For about 5-6 years, we were very good friends. And eventually we hooked up, and I would never have thought that ultimately he would be my husband, and it turned out that he's a chef. So when Kelvin and I started dating, or just when we got married, we did catering and wedding cakes and so forth alongside our permanent jobs. And I stepped into the role of doing the cake decorating and wedding cakes and so forth with him, and eventually I took that over from him. And that was my role in the school when we started out, doing all the wedding cakes, birthday cakes, and also assisting with our edutainment classes, where him and I would run classes for the public, basically.
Guys, shortening is butter or oil. I want to see clean stations. Like I'm saying, don't start with me today, man.
Why a cooking school? Kelvin, being in the industry that he's been in, he saw a gap in the market because he had students coming into his kitchen from from culinary schools, and he realized that a lot of the students didn't really have much hands-on experience. So he thought that, to make a difference, he would obviously need to offer something where the kids would be more hands-on, so that when they do eventually go into industry, they would understand what they're getting themselves into.
The pair discovered that it was not going to be an easy ride and had to find many innovative ways of keeping their heads above water. There's a saying, an entrepreneur tends to bite off a little more than he can chew, hoping he'll quickly learn how to chew it. Kelvin and Jarlene were about to find out just how much they had bitten off.
It's difficult running a business. It's difficult having to have overheads and have to build something up from scratch. So when we do certain things and there's a little bit of income, it's not enough to see to the home front as well, because you need to keep this beast going. And quite often, before, we found ourselves maybe getting stuck with petrol, and unfortunately I had to get out of the car and push, and the girl's got to do what a girl's got to do.
Over the years, Jarlene and Kelvin have successfully built the Johannesburg Culinary and Pastry School, which offers short courses in cooking, baking, pastry, chocolate and wine to aspiring chefs. The couple chose the Maboneng precinct as the location for their business because it is central, making it accessible to everyone. Their coffee shop, Cinnamon, is an extension of the school, and it helps with offering employment, giving people a chance to prove themselves. The major project underlying the culinary school is the Seabiscuit Foundation Scholarship Program, which seeks to support previously disadvantaged youth to develop skills in the culinary arts.
Kelvin's from Westbury, I'm from Eldorado Park. And obviously coming out of those communities, we know what happens in our communities and that there's a lack of opportunities, there's a lack of role models and so forth. So it only made sense that we need to reach back and try to assist where we can. When we started out the school, for instance, we started out with the Chef's Project, which we've now registered as our non-profit company, the Seabiscuit Foundation. But the Chef's Project, basically, Kelvin simply reached out into the streets of Joburg, communities in Joburg, and basically got a couple of guys, put them in uniform, and just inspired the heck out of them. To the point that they felt so proud to be in uniform, to be part of what we're doing. They basically bought into our vision. And a lot of them have now actually made a career out of this.
Yeah, because now I'm a food handler.
Okay.
I'm a permanent chef. I was a kakat in the street of Pretoria, Street Hill, bro. Washing motor, pagisi motor, like. Then he asked me, don't you mind going to train to become a chef tomorrow? Then I said, okay, you can train me. He asked me, what can I do in baking and things and cooking? I said, no, I used to cook at home, things like that. Then I started the Mitana chef, then Sakalu Swana from that.
Zach, please. You see, you're making noise now. You come in and you're making noise. What are you doing? I need to put you. What are you doing right now? My name here is normally it's chef, but I don't have a problem if people call me Kelvin. I don't have title issues. Can you just put us away there, please? That table is Dermakar. Cinnamon. The name actually comes from. I love Cook Sisters. You know, I grew up in a colored community. On a Sunday we eat Cook Sisters, and I see this young man is just busy making them. It's something that we used to eat on a Sunday morning, and I said, why must we only eat it on a Sunday? We can eat it right through the week. So I think that's where my love for cinnamon comes in. So this must get into a bowl like it. You mustn't put it here. You look here, veggies and that stuff. No, Captain.
From this foundation, I've benefited many things in it. More skills, more experience kuyo ngokuthi indaba zami zokupheka. Ama opportunities they came now ngezinto eziningi ukuthi since nginaleyo experience so kuba nama opportunities amaningi ngaphandle maybe abaningi abafuna ngibaphekele ezindlini just to see how my skills and knowledge has been become ngokujoya nje ngaphakathi kwayo.
I used to stay in a children's home and I was part of this foundation and now I've done lots with them and I actually stay by myself now. I pay my own rent. I can literally stand on my feet through the Seabiscuit Foundation. I've been to London. I've worked at the Ritz Hotel of London, which is like the leading hotel in the world.
It's such a great foundation for me because they're helping people who can't afford certain stuff and they do paying my school fees, which is, I'm so grateful for that. And you know, I'm doing what I love. I'm cooking, I'm discovering a lot of stuff and I love it.
My favorite food manje, what I learned best is the seafood platter. The seafood platter, I can do it. Ngilele ngivuka. If you can tell me, you ask me the ingredient, I can give you mvuka, I can take.
So my favorite meal to prepare is lemon crema on a sable ginger biscuit with some champagne jelly. It's like the exquisite thing that I love to do at the moment. Yeah, so I do it at work, at home, for my friends. It's like top notch.
J'aime beaucoup la nourriture parce que nous tous on doit manger et on doit explorer de nouvelles cuisines et tout. So yeah, c'est ma passion et puis la nourriture c'est la nourriture, hein? Yeah.
With only 6 years in the business of making a difference one apron at a time, Seabiscuit has had a tremendous impact in the lives of its beneficiaries. However, Kelvin still envisions room for growth.
Did I achieve my goal? I think changing our mindsets, that we achieved. Running a sustainable business, that we achieved. Where we want to be, not yet. There's obviously there's a few challenges that we need to overcome. And I think I'm in for a long haul. So I think maybe in the next 5 years, we still want to grow. I think that is who I am. I don't like to be stagnant. So creating something bigger than ourselves, I don't think we'll ever achieve that goal right now.
Kelvin hy wakker geskrik dat met die feit dat my oupa hom gesê het dat die polisie hom moet vat nie. Ek weet regtig nie waar sou hy gewees het in hierdie tyd en uur nie. Maar ek glo in my binneste met die goeie mens wat hy altyd was. Hy het altyd hy gehad om mense te help. En soos ek nou kan sien, hy het altyd hy binne om mense te help. Ek glo hy sal regtig weggebreek dit van dit af, want dit is nie wie hy was nie.
Seeing him and seeing myself, it's not that I discourage myself, but I'm happy for his sake and where he is. It's the reason why I went to him and asked him, don't you have a job for me here? Whatever, if it's sweeping the floors, it will be fine with me. But I'm happy for your sake. He did well in his life, and look where he is.
The foundation and the scholarship program are inspired by the story of Seabiscuit, a racehorse who overcame adversity to become one of the most famous racehorses of the last century. Just like his trainer would not give up on him, Kelvin will not give up on the youth.